Greetings, Beth Warriors. Greetings. Greg is back. Yes, I'm back. What are you doing? What have you been doing? It's been wild times over here. Might as well just be straight to the point. July was a wild ass month. It's not quite over yet. Still some unfinished business. But man, oh man, how are we already almost done with July? When I started having some wild things happening. I remember just before the 4th, the 3rd, 4th, going into that weekend, that first weekend in July. What's up, my brother? What's up? Woo! What is up? Been working on videos. There's some new content on volume 2. Starting to, in full transparency, I'm feeling like my best self. Yeah, feeling like my best self right now. I can't believe July's already got smoked. It was man, that whole week, July 7th, like the 7-7, 7-8-9 portal through like 7-11 into the next week. Incredible. Just totally incredible. Some of the stuff that's happened in this past month, and yet I've just stayed locked in. But I couldn't come up for air to put out the consistency of messages because it's been heavy. It's been some really heavy integrations that I know that where I'm at now is not where I was a month ago. Nor should it be. Nor should you be in the same place you were a month ago. And that's kind of the wild ride we're on right now. That's the wild ride that we're on right now. Is you can choose. You get to choose. You absolutely get choice. What you don't get is free will. But you get choice. And the choice is you're either going to align with your sole purpose on this planet, or you're going to keep running. You're going to keep avoiding. You're going to keep putting your head in the sand or putting your head up your ass or wherever it needs to go. I recorded a video earlier that I'll post tomorrow, and I talked about how probably the most challenging thing to do is this: to pop your head out of your ass, right? To really actually get your shit together. That's probably the hardest thing to do. I think that's why most people run. They run. When I turn on the light, it's like I don't like to make an analogy to consider other beautiful human beings like the little bugs that exist when the lights come on. But when that light comes on, a lot of people flee. So the few of you that can kind of sit in that light and sit in this fire as I am, that's where I'm at right now. I've always been fascinated by the biblical story of Daniel and Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego getting thrown in the fire. They got thrown in the fire, and Daniel got thrown in the lion's pit. And you listen to those, you read those stories, and it sounds interesting, but you can read it from even a parable, from a analogy. It's like, I've made home in the fire. That's where I'm at right now. Some of you may feel like you're in the fire, feeling like hard pressed on all sides, but are you being crushed? You may feel the heat all around you. The furnace, just the heat, but are you being burned? You may feel like there's all the walls are closing in and you don't know what else to do. You're feeling desperate, anxious, hopeless, overwhelmed, and yet finding the peace within. I've always heard that, especially in relationship to God. Right? When the storms come, right? God doesn't send the storm to change you. It's sent for you to change who you are in the midst of the storm. It's not meant to destroy you. These are cleansing environments. Right now, we're in an opportunity for you to make a choice to cleanse yourself, to clear yourself. Clear yourself of what? Your past, the stories, the circumstances, the hardships, the hurts, the burdens, the sadness, right? And when you come to this channel, to this message, I don't offer you any quick solutions. I don't give you a false hope that say these three things and write it and put it under your pillow, and by the morning, everything will be just fine. You'll manifest all your dreams. It doesn't work that easy, nor should it. We all want it though. See, that's the human nature. We all want it. I've been doing a lot of work on habit loops and habit mapping. And it's interesting how when we think about our habits, there's a cycle. Let's see if I can pull this up. There's a cycle that we have. And when we see the patterns, this has everything to do with and this is it's right here. It's the beautiful thing about everything I've been talking about, because this is what it all boils down to. Let me pull this up. Share. So the habit loop. You have your cue, you have your routine, and you have your reward. The cue is basically the triggering event. In this modern day, we call it being triggered. I've been elevating the terminology to call it more of what it is, which is you're being activated. You could be activated in multiple ways. You could be activated through negative emotional recall, which is triggering a emotional program that you're carrying around from past wounds, unhealed wounds about yourself. And you can also be activated in a positive way. I think this message does both. I think that's what makes it so challenging, is because in this message, my light is clearly, if you see the light inside of me, clearly that exists inside of you. So there's a little glimmer of hope. However, the medicine and the truth of it is that you're going to have to face yourself. And so interesting is that last week I hit 13 years sobriety. And that's 4,745 days of choosing life, of choosing to break this habit that I'm showing you right now, which is when I was down, when I was overwhelmed, if I ever felt stressed, that's the cue, right? The cue is the trigger. Do you ever feel unappreciated, unloved, taken for granted, any negative emotion? What we then do in terms of our own habits is we create a routine, which is usually what I call the escape route, but this is the habit loop. You have a cue, you have the uncomfortable emotional state of being, how you're feeling. Then you have a routine, which is an activity or something that you need to make you feel better about yourself. And the interesting thing about habits is you don't need to change the way you feel about yourself, and you don't need to change feeling better about yourself. It's this piece in the middle. It's the routine. It's the escape route. It's substituting, like for me, if I felt down about myself, right, I used to turn to alcohol, I used to turn to weed. Sometimes I'd turn to pornography. Sometimes I'd turn to um, shopping or overindulging, eating, food, sports, entertainment when I was big into that stuff, right? If you're feeling down, you look for something to get you to feel better about life. This is literally the habit loop. And what growth takes, what healing is about, what becoming the best version of yourself is it's saying that you have the same cue, something activates in you, you feel down, you feel lonely, you feel unloved, you feel unappreciated, you feel like you're being taken for granted. And instead of going to the thing that does not help you, maybe you go, and for me, what do I always talk about? When I hit my rock bottom, right? First thing I did was break up with my current routine of alcohol. And the second thing I did was ask for help. And by asking for help in like the VA system, which is for Veterans Administration, they gave me a psychologist, they gave me a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist prescribes all kinds of pharmaceuticals. I don't want nothing to do with that. So that person went away. And then eventually, right, I started working with a psychologist, excuse me, and I'm just going to talk therapy. And that gave me a healthier process for me to be able to deal with how I was feeling. This is the habit loop. And so again, when you're talking about the habit loop, you want to keep those cues. It's not keeping the cues. What it really takes is, and it's the thing I talk about most, is self-awareness. And that's where so many people struggle because you don't want to even sit still. I know so many people that I've tried to work with, that I've tried to help, and it's restlessness. There's restlessness because we live in such a distracted society. Everything is just super hyper stimulating that for you to really find the space within your own mind, within your own body to just sit, to just check in with yourself. Because what I have learned is I see 1010, it's a nice affirmation, is that the more that I can have awareness that when my mood shifts, when something feels off, for me to check in with myself. And this is what I teach throughout all the 1% Better Every Day journal, right? This is what we're learning to do in the Breath of Life Healing Circle, right? To get out of our heads, get into our bodies, understand the power of breath, understand the power of a group of people that are non-judgmental, that can really hold what I would consider a sacred space for another human being, for another life force, to not be judgmental, but to actually feel a sense of refreshment, that people can be vulnerable. open, honest, not holding back, not withholding information, but to really say, no, I just want to get out all this burden. I just want to get all this shit off my chest. And it's like, ain't none of us certified this or certified that. We're just other life force, eternal souls having this human experience, and we're just willing to show up for ourselves and clearly hold some space for another human, for another fellow being to be present with. And that's what we experienced today in the Breath of Life. It was powerful. It's heavy. It's heavy stuff. It's heavy stuff. And you can either choose, because you don't have free will, and the reason why you don't have free will is because I'll get into it more. Your soul chose the menu items that you're required to experience in this life. And yet, because we get the white, because we get the veil, it takes awakening beyond the pain of this human experience that you're having, which is temporary, for you to awaken to the reality that is your soul's purpose on this planet, which is a classroom. This is a classroom. You have asked for these perfectly aligned, synchronized experiences to happen along your journey in order for your soul specifically to be activated in a way that allows you the opportunity, and I should say it plural, you have many opportunities to activate your spiritual awakening process so that you can truly fulfill what it is that your purpose is here, your ultimate purpose, your highest purpose on this planet, which should serve the greatest good of all humanity. And that sounds like a mouthful, even just flowing out of this mouth of mine. But I know that that's what our purpose is. It's not just my purpose, it's all of our purposes. Naturally given to you, I think we select it. I think that, and I'll get into this story because I don't know if I've told it. This last month has been a blur because it's been a tornado. It's been a whirlwind up, man. I've had so many supernatural experiences where I'm having dreams one day and things happening the next, and like supernatural shit happening. Verifiable, supernatural things happening that just, it's like, thank you. Thank you, Great Spirit. Thank you for allowing me to not feel so like I'm losing my mind. Because sometimes you can feel that way when you're on this spiritual path and when there's very few people that are awake yet at this point. When the masses are still distracted and thinking it's all about just all the bullshit going on. Those that are still locked into the bullshit and the division and the struggle and the suffering and the politics and the sports and the entertainment and the social issues. And we just want to fight about it and argue and cheer and it's like, it's not about any of that. And so when you get these supernatural confirmations, which I've had over this past month, and I'm just integrating all this stuff, and I'm absolutely re-emerging in a way that, I'll be able to find the words to explain these things in a very powerful way. But I do believe that we've done this life many, 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 many times. And every time it's like a test. It's like a course. You pass or you fail. And even if you fail, there's lessons learned. There's expansion. There's karmic things cleared. There's karmic things gained. And yet we choose to come back and do it again. We choose to come back and do it again and do it again and do it again until we get it right. And I believe if you're hearing this message, this is one of the many opportunities for you, yes, you, to get it right, to start getting it right, to start peeling back the layers, to start opening up your mind, your heart, your soul, to truly aligning yourself with your purpose on this planet as a soul. And no longer living small, no longer shrinking yourself, no longer keeping your light hidden. It's starting to expand, right? To feel an expansion beyond your mind, beyond your body, beyond the space that you're occupying right now, and really starting to expand and connecting energetically with the oneness, the greatness of all this. And I think that if I was even to play this back and listen to it, to me it makes sense because it's flowing from me, because this is firsthand experience. I'll start with a story, recent, that's pretty fucking incredible. But it started a sequence of things that have led me to right here. So recently, I started going to a massage therapist on a regular basis, right? And it's interesting because I think it was like the second time that I had gone in for the massage. This therapist was just, I mean, this lady was like, had her whole forearm working on my back. And I mean, I'm laying there and I'm talking like she was working. My heart center's right here, right? Your heart center's right here in the center of your chest. Well, she was on my back, right on the back of my center, which, I have a pretty big back. But she was working on one of the muscles. It was on my right side, on the right side of my body. So this is the father side of the body. And she just had her whole elbow and arm in there. And man, I'm literally crying. Like I'm in so much pain from what she's doing, but I'm just like mentally I'm just telling myself, surrender, bro, surrender. And I'm like trying to breathe as much as I could. The stuff we do in Breath of Life, I'm like just trying to breathe, surrender, bro, surrender. And I'm like crying and I want to call my mommy to come and save me. That type of pain. I mean, 11 out of 10, like it was just so much fucking pain. And it's like finally this muscle, this knot in my back, like releases. And this massage therapist goes, "Whoa, that was crazy." And I'm like crying, man, like literally crying in so much pain. But I didn't say please stop. I just sat in that fire. This is what I keep talking about, sitting in the fire. And this is where the story gets interesting. You should stay tuned. You should listen to this, because this alone, you can't make this shit up. This is a one in a quadrillion, whatever, gazillion odds of happening. Listen to this story. Thank you for joining me. So as the knot finally comes off, I'm like, oh man, I don't know what you're doing, but like I could tell that intuitively. I've had lots of massages, but intuitively, this massage therapist was just speaking to my body in ways that I'm like, I've never experienced. And I said, whatever you just did, you undid something that's really old. And she says, yeah, like ancient. And I'm like, yeah, something ancient, like past lives. And she's like, whoa, I didn't know you believe in that stuff. And I said, yeah, I do. And she's like, that's crazy. And she's like, I've never had an experience like that. But she tells me that when she was doing that, and I'm like, surrender, bro, surrender. Just sit in the fire. This is so fucking painful. Just sit in it. There's something happening here that needs to be done. And she's just sitting there mentally telling herself, because we're both quiet. I mean, I might be like whimpering. I don't know. It was that painful. But she's there saying, let go, let go, let go, release, release. Like mentally, she's telling this muscle, this knot in my back, release, 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 release. And it finally does. And then next thing you know, she's like, "You believe in that past life stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "You know what's crazy is when I was 7 years old, she's all, I had this dream." And she starts telling me about this dream. She says that she remembers being in a gas chamber and everyone around her was like choking and dying. And she like freaks out and she falls to the ground and there's a little crack in the wooden floors below her. And she's like trying to suck through the little crack, trying to get fresh air and not die. And in comes a guard wearing a mask and he picks her up and he basically puts her face in a canister of the gas and she dies. She blacks out. Again, she tells me this woman's in her 20s and she says that she had this dream when she was 7 years old. And she tells her mom when she was 7. And her mom's like questioning her, like, "Do you know anything about World War II?" And she's 7 years old. She's like, "No, I don't know anything about this." And she's like, "That's crazy." And her mom and her both kind of freaked out about the dream. So I'm still there getting my massage. And I tell her, "Well, did you figure out the name of who you were?" And she's like, "What? You can do that?" And I was like, "Yeah, you can do that." And she's like, "Oh, that's crazy. How?" And she asked me how. And I said, "Well, you have to basically, before you go to bed, you can ask your higher self, right, that you can make a request that you want to meet one of their past lives, the spirit." And again, if you've listened to me for any amount of time, I've said this story plenty of times about my own experience. And so here I am laying on this table and I tell her my story. So she shares with me her story that she has of this gas chamber incident as a 7-year-old. She has a dream, which is really a past life memory coming up through the dream state, astro dream state. And then so I tell her about my dream. And if you are new here, welcome. Listen to this. You guys got to hear this rest of this story. If you're here, I hope it's getting suspenseful. You have to hear this because this shit you can't make up. This is 1 in a quadrillion odds of happening, and this happened. So here I am, and I'm telling her my story. And if you haven't heard this, my story is that back about 2000, about 25 years ago, I was listening to a guy, I don't care if you like him or not, but I was listening to a guy named David Wilcock, and he used to talk a lot about how he thought his past life was, I think it was Edgar Casey. And he'd always show his picture, and it was interesting. I was kind of like, that's cool. I've always been intrigued by the thought of past lives. And he says this thing that there's a way that you can meet somebody from a past life, a version of you, and the way you know you do this is because in a dream there's a handshake. And I just remember that I had a dream, and in this dream I met a guy and he introduced himself to me as Bob Law. And we had a handshake, and I wake up the next day and I'm like, whoa, that was weird. I remember the handshake. Bob Law, what the hell's that? Who's that? And so I start Google searching, blah, blah, blah. Nothing comes up. And just like anything intuitively, the idea finally hits me. And I'm like, oh, wait, he said blah, blah. Just like if you met me, sometimes you'll meet Greg and sometimes you get Gregory. Sometimes you'll get Rocky. And so it dawns on me, I'm like, Bob Law, that's short for Robert Law. So I start typing in Robert Law. And guess what? I get a hit. Ding, ding, ding. I'll pull it up here, actually. I was thinking to pull it up on my phone. And so I get a hit. And I'm like, oh, shit. When I type in Robert Law, it turns out this dude was he won the Medal of Honor. He was the guy that jumped on the grenade in Vietnam. He was in the army to save the platoon. And right then and there, people might be like, man, that's crazy. Like, how is that you? And I've said that to myself. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. How's that me? Right? It's kind of interesting. Here's a picture of him. And yet, there is some similarities with this dude. He's got the mustache. Right now, I got the beard. But a lot of people see some similarities that I've shown this picture to with him. Now, just having that dream may not be enough to convince some of you. I don't even know if it was enough to convince me to meet this guy and to read this. But there's something, if you've never met me in person and you don't know my body like I know my body, is I've always felt like I have a big rib cage. Like the upper rib cage pops out. Like my solar plexus is like, I have a pretty large chest, but my solar plexus feels like it pops out too. And yet when I read this story, it was like, I went kind of ghost. I was like, whoa. And I've shared this story a bunch of times. And some of you may be sitting here saying, well, what does this have to do with right now, though? What does this have to do with right now? Because again, I had this dream probably 25 years ago about this guy right here, Robert Law. Meeting him. Well, here's where it gets fucking crazy, you guys. So here I am a month ago getting this massage, having just gone through some of the most pain I've ever experienced in my life, right there on the back of probably where, I'm carrying around this knot that I've never had anybody, a massage therapist, intuitively just lock in on. And the minute I say, yeah, so I have this dream and I meet this guy and blah, 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 I tell her the whole story. I'm telling my massage therapist this same exact story. I'm face down, so I can't even see her face, but I can hear the tone of her voice saying, like, she stops massaging. She's like freaking out, like, no way you're saying this. No way. Robert Law? And I'm like, yeah, Robert Law. And she's like, you're not going to believe this. And I'm like, what's up? And she's like, 2 weeks ago, one of my other clients was right here where you're laying, and he had just come back from Robert Law's memorial, where he's memorialized, which I think it's in Texas. And he was so excited because Robert Law is like this guy's hero, and this guy's a veteran too. And he was so excited about Robert Law and his valor and his act of heroism, jumping on the fucking grenade, that she was so inspired that she started researching him, so that she even still had tabs on her phone open up with this same picture. And she was like, dude, what? There is no fucking way. And I'm sitting there saying, what the fuck? How is this possible? How, if all the gazillion people that we could be talking about 25 years ago, the random alignment of this brand new encounter with the new massage therapist, I'm just sitting there, she's working something crazy on my back, releasing this like knot that's on the back of my heart, which would have been right there. You jump on that grenade, that's what you do, boom. Try and absorb that blast. And I felt it. I felt that release. Boom. It was like, whoa. I was like, whatever you just did was old and not from this life. She's like, yeah, it was ancient, huh? And yet, I'm over there talking about Robert Law, and 2 weeks ago, some guy was talking about it so much that it impacted her life. What is the odds of that? If you've ever questioned this stuff about past lives, I'm not here to tell you this is the definitive, but I just know that this is pretty freaking incredible to have that type of an alignment. To have that incredible of an alignment. What a confirmation. Just be like, man, what is the chances of that ever happening? We could have been talking about anybody. For me to just drop a name in literally 2 weeks, it's fresh there. It's still open in her screensaver. She shows me the same exact picture, and she's looking at me, looking at him, saying, "Yeah, you guys actually do look a little bit like you. Actually, there's some similarities going on here." And it was just, we both freaked out. And so the only thing I can do to offer you listening, and thank you for those of you that are here listening, because this is one of my absolute beliefs, is that I truly do believe that my soul, your soul, have absolutely agreed to work together in this life. You're not here by accident. The same way I wasn't there by accident in this massage therapist's office, talking of just random shit, random acts, names being dropped, experiences. She's literally, what is this woman thinking? Whoa, last week there's a guy telling me this is his hero, and now here's a guy telling me that he was him. Come on now. Come on now. This is verifiable. This is real shit happening in my life. This goes way beyond the 111s and the 222s and the 333s and the 444s. And I can't even stop all that from happening because it's everywhere too. Not only I'm having the alignments right now where I see a time, I'm driving, it says 141, and then the car that passes me, their license plate says 141, and then the next car coming this way says 141, and I look down at my odometer and it's 141. Perfect alignment. That means you are where you are supposed to be. This is an assignment for you. You are assigned to hear this message as an activation. And yes, it's challenging. Yes, it's scary, but I believe in you. I believe in you just as much as I believe that somehow, some way, 25 years ago, I have a dream. I meet a dude named Bob Law. I start researching it, and I went paled out, skin, all the goosebumps. I'm like, whoa, what? Robert Law? This guy? And I just, it's always sat with me. It's always sat with me. And to have that confirmation a month ago, but that's only number one. That's only the first thing. You guys don't even know, man. This month has been so juicy. It's been wild. It's been the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. Because what's interesting is where she was working on was the right side of my body. And if you've also listened to me, and definitely if you're a part of something called the Breath of Life Healing Circle, you would be learning that when you have pains, when you have aches, when you have what you might think is just a random injury on the right side of your body, that is related to a blockage on your father's side of the family. And when you have something that's on the left side, that means that there is blockage on your mother's side of the family. Now here's what happens next. This was the week before the first weekend, or maybe even that Monday before July. So it was the end of June. Well, within the first 2 weeks of July, my biological father passed. He died of heart failure. And there's so many synchronicities with that. This is a man that my time with him in this life was very short-lived. And yet I felt compelled, based on another alignment that happened, another miracle that happened in my life, supernatural miracle that happened. I felt compelled to sit there and visit him on his deathbed, even though in my heart of heart, in my soul, I had made peace with this man. Everything can heal, bro. Everything can heal if you do this work. If you do this work, and I can guarantee you, I'm saying guarantees here because I just speak this because I know, I believe it. It's just flowing through me. If you're listening right now, if you're hearing this message, you're a chosen one. You are called to end generational curses, generational trauma. You are called to be the one to draw the line and say, no, no more. It ends with me. I'm going to set myself and my ancestry free from coming back into this world and continuing the cycle, the vicious fucking cycle. It's time to elevate. It's time to transcend yourself. And it does take you doing the healing work, investing in this work that I am talking about. That is why things like this happen. But here's the thing. So that was probably the end of June. I'm a pretty private dude, even though I have a very public channel. But I'm also very authentic. And I've never hesitated sharing what's going on in my life. And what's interesting is for the past 8 months, I've been in a separation. I had a breakup with someone I'd met a few years ago. And that was another powerful meeting. A lot of people nowadays meet online, all the dating apps and shit. Well, I actually met somebody on a full harvest moon. And what was interesting is when I left my property, we met at the hot springs that I love so much on a full harvest moon. And when I left my property, my odometer on my truck said 111,222 miles, 111222. I even took a picture, right? This is how wild this shit is because I love having receipts. Because I've had a lot of people, I've questioned myself, I've questioned this journey myself, and clearly I've had a lot of other people question me too, where it's like, man, I don't know, man. Are you sure you know what you're talking about? Are you sure all this shit? And I question it too. I've had my own therapist. In all honesty, I've had my own therapist say, man, I don't know, you might be a little delulu. And I'm like, I might. But look, what did I say? September 28th. If you look it up, it was a full harvest moon. That was my odometer that day, 111222, right before I met my life partner, a very important woman. And it was interesting that the way we met, it was like something happened. We looked in each other's eyes, and I wasn't even supposed to go. That's the cool thing, is I've talked a lot about the butterfly effect. When you shake things up, I remember I love going to the hot springs. It's close by my ranch, and I'd been there all day, and I usually come home because you can come and go. And so I came home to like have dinner, feed my pup, and just kind of relax a little bit. And I was kind of questioning, like, should I really go back tonight? It's, I go there all the time. But for whatever reason, I said, you know what, man, like, why wouldn't you go? You love it there. It's a beautiful night. Let's go. So I get in the car, the truck, and there's the odometer, right? September 28, 2003, 111222s, right? Y'all think I just say this shit, and it's like, nah, this is perfect alignment. And so I just remember walking out of the bathroom, and this woman was there, and like, she gave me a look like I ain't never seen before. And I'm like, what? Who the hell was that? And I kind of look out of the, like, in the peripheral, and there was a guy that was kind of with her. And I was like, what the hell? Like when a woman looks at a man like that, there's something going on there. And I remember I just go to these hot springs and I couldn't shake the look. Well, if I fast forward, the long story short is that I had so much intrigue. I said, I got to figure out who that was. And so I go into this other hot spring, and lo and behold, there she is. And she's there by herself. And one thing leads to another. We start talking. And it really became like a love at first sight type of experience. However, we did have some challenges along the way. because again, like attracts like, and we were both still healing from some past wounds. And so we did have a breakup last fall, and that really set me on a pretty deep dive along my healing journey. And what's wild is that we hadn't talked in 8 months. And then we fast forward to, I had reached out a few times, even sent a video. So there's some other receipts there. I sent her a video because I was desiring to reconcile. And yet it just hadn't happened. The alignment hadn't happened. But what's wild is another butterfly moment happened. And it happened on 7/8/9. So 7/8/9 was, we've had 3 of them this month actually. But it was July, which is a 7, July 8th. And when you add 2025, you get a 9. So that was a 7/8/9 portal. And I woke up that morning and there was a meeting that I needed to go to. And I didn't feel like going to the meeting. So I was like, wasn't feeling great because during this timeline, I started to get information that my father wasn't doing good. And I was really starting to process some, it was bringing up some things. I was getting some pressure from family members, from his family members, that I really needed to like show up in his life and be there. And I don't know, I was really questioning, like, I felt like I'd made peace with a man that really was never in my life, my entire life. Very small window. And so there were some things coming up for me. I was being challenged internally to really sit and really sift through some aspects of myself and my existence and my connection with what you would call a dad in my life, because I've never really had a man show up for me throughout this life. And so I wasn't really feeling great that 7/7, 7/8/9, that week. However, there was a meeting scheduled for me to attend, and I felt like bailing on it, but for whatever reason, I said, I'm gonna go. And I go, and guess what? I get to the place, and the meeting's canceled. And I'm like, shit, man. And so I don't stick around. Again, not feeling my best. And so I say, I'm gonna go get breakfast at this park. And even right now, I see a 144. And if you know, you know. If you don't, look into that 144 number. Because if your ears are hearing that number 144, it's meant for you. And I want you to research it. What does that mean as an angel number? What does that mean? 144 is an angel number. What does that mean? And see if there's anything that aligns with you. So here's what's crazy. It's 7/8/9. That's July 8th, 2025. Well, about a week and a half prior, I had a dream. And in this dream, my then ex-girlfriend was like in my arms. And I like woke up like conscientious, like in the dream, saying, "Whoa, what are you doing here?" Thinking like we're not together anymore. And she was like, "What do you mean? No, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. We're together. It's fine. Don't worry. Like we're together again. Like everything's fine." And I'm like, "What? No, no, we're not together." And she's like, "No, we are. Just it's okay. It's okay." Like she was just so calming, so soothing, so reassuring that everything was going to be fine. Everything was fine and it was going to be perfectly fine. And then what was cool is like she has a couple sons and we went out and like they greeted me. My son was there and it was just like, it just felt great. And then of course I woke up out of it and I'm like, whoa, why the hell would I have that dream, man? Like I haven't heard anything from her in 8 months. And what's interesting, I had seen her a few days prior. And a lot of times I'll share this stuff with like my therapist, and I'm sharing with you guys very private. This is like the intimacy of my life but I feel like these synchronicities are so supernatural that y'all gotta hear this shit. Maybe this is the credibility you need for you to take a leap of faith, to actually pull the trigger on what? 1% Better Everyday Journal, Breath of Life. Maybe it's one-on-one coaching. Maybe it's all the above. Maybe it's finally now you're ready to just take that leap of faith. So again, I have the dream and I'm like, that's wild. And I'm like questioning it. I'm even like, why would I have that dream? Telling my therapist, right? I would much like because I was so doubtful. I felt like, man, 8 months has passed by. Like, no way. I had even crossed paths with her on the dating app. So I already knew she's putting herself out there. Like, we're trying to move on. Like, this shit's done. And yet I have this dream. And then the butterfly kicks in. 7, 8, 9. And there I am in the town where she lives. The meeting gets canceled and I say, I'm going to go have breakfast. I hadn't eaten breakfast. It was already midday. I leave the office and guess what? It's 11:11. I noted that. It was 11:11 and I say, I'm going to go have lunch at this thing. Well, I'm at this park. So I drive over to the park and lo and behold, I see her car. And I'm like, oh shit. That's wild. And so I park. There's limited parking, but there's a spot 2 spots ahead of her. And I'm a little nervous, anxious, because I see her car and I get out and I'm like kind of scanning around. I don't see her. And I say, well, fuck. I kind of lost my appetite seeing her car because I went there to go eat, but I just didn't have the appetite. So I said, look, I have to go mail some things off. Maybe even it was your 1% Better Everyday Journal that day. But I had to mail some stuff off and run some errands. And so I'm doing that. And next thing you know, I'm walking to this print shop and out of the corner of my eye, I see her at her car. And I say, fuck, I'm going to go talk to her. So sure enough, I walk over there. And as I start getting closer, I see a guy walking like away from her. And I'm like, oh shit. I start putting 2 to 2 together. I'm like, dang, she's with this guy. And I see the guy and I look at him and he looks down at his phone and he does like a, oh shit. And I'm like beeline focused on her and she's got her windows down and she pulls out and I kind of put my hands up and I'm like, what's up? Let's talk. And she like kind of turns and I say, no, I'm a follower, right? I'm just being totally straight up with you guys, with the world. And so I get in my car because this story is so incredible. Like lock in, man. Hear this kind of sequence. Like this is supernatural shit that's happening in my life. And guess what? It's happening in yours too. Whether you're paying attention to it or not, that's your choice. That's what you get the choice. You can stay distracted and avoid paying attention to the things that are happening in your life, the opportunities. And I say that plural because you're not just given one opportunity to fulfill your sole purpose on this planet. And I don't say that as a means that you can just keep screwing around and like not doing the work necessary for you to align yourself. But you are given many opportunities. That's the grace. That's the grace of this experience. You're given grace. Because the whole universe wants you to activate and to align and to release yourself from all this bullshit that's weighing you down. So this is just real talk here. It's always been real talk. It's always been real talk here. Results kill excuses. I hit a point in my life that I was done bullshitting myself. Are you ready to be done bullshitting yourself? You ready to do this? Do you know what that is? That's you pulling your head out of your ass. That's the hardest thing to do for most people. The second hardest thing to do, you know what's the second hardest thing to do? It's once you've pulled your head out of your ass and you start getting your shit together, it's you trying to inspire other people to pull the heads out of their asses. That's the second hardest thing. First, do you, and then see if you can help anybody else pull their head out of their ass. That's the second hardest thing. So here I am. There's the guy. There's the girl. And she starts driving away. And I jump in my car because she gave me like a little look. And I jumped in my car and I start following her. She makes a turn, but then she starts headed towards like where her house was. And I'm like, I didn't want to go there. I was thinking maybe she's going to go to a store or something and we could just talk. But then within a matter of moments, we're both headed down this road. She had already made one turn. We both made two turns and we're headed on this main road. In a matter of just a few moments, she makes another turn to go back to where she first saw me. And if you're anything with the new terminology, we call that spinning the block. She spun the block and I'm literally behind her saying, oh shit, she just spun the block. She turned. She did her own version of a butterfly effect because she literally spun the block to where she saw me. And at this point, she now recognizes that, oh shit, he's behind me. And I tell her, pull over, let's talk. And so to fast forward the story in a way that keeps it interesting and dramatic is, yes, we did pull over. And yes, we did have a really incredible conversation. But that is not where the story ends, because the story where it gets so incredible, you guys, is the fact that I have to reverse. I have to go back to the guy. There was a guy. And the guy was on a date with her. It was their first date. And what's so interesting is they had just gotten some coffee or tea and they had gone for a hike. And they had just come back from a hike in the mountains. And as they're walking, this guy that she's on a date with sees my car, which she did not recognize because I have a new car. And this man that she's on a date with sees my car and I am not there. And he literally stops in his tracks and says, holy shit, have you ever seen this guy? He's a total fucking stud. So here's a guy that's also like, I would think he's a good looking guy. He's a good stud. But yet he was like on a date, closing out a date. If you don't remember what it is to close out a first date, that's usually like there's an opportunity for you to do something. And they're right there at the car, but he sees my car and he stops in his track and says, holy shit, have you ever seen this guy? This guy's a total stud. And my ex-girlfriend, she's like, what guy? What are you talking about? Because this just comes out of nowhere. And he's like, yeah, this guy, have you ever seen him? Big guy, brown, gray beard, big, strong guy. And she's like, what guy, dude? Are you fucking kidding? And she looks in the car and she sees the results kill excuses sticker on my water bottle. And she's like, wait, what the fuck, dude? What is this a joke? She's like, is this a joke? Is like Ashton Kutcher going to jump out? Am I being pranked here? What are you talking about, bro? And he's like, yeah, the guy, man, he's so fucking cool. And she's like, dude, that guy is my ex-boyfriend. And the dude just pales out. And he's like, what? But then he keeps going. He's like, really? That's your ex-boyfriend? He's even more excited. Like, oh, well, where does he work? What does he do? What's his name? Blah, blah, blah. He's so excited about me, not her. It's crazy. And in that moment, something shifted in her mind where she's like, what? Because basically this guy, he was sent. It was like he had a divine assignment in that moment to be given the words to say that, hey, look, I'm not your guy. This guy is your guy. And here's what gets crazy. He tells her, yeah, I followed this guy out of the hot springs like a week ago. And what's crazy is I don't ever remember meeting this guy, but clearly he's seen me at the hot springs, which I hadn't been there in months. And I know that it was only that time a week ago because I had the new car, and it's the first time I've been to the hot springs close to my house in probably 4 months, because that's where we first met. And it was kind of a difficult place to go to, just being vulnerable and open with you, the audience. And yet she's just like perplexed, like, what the fuck, bro? Like, this is a trick? But because the guy paled out, she's like, nah, man, this guy's not playing around. Like, he's really into that guy. And that's what shifted everything. So to fast forward, I had this incredible reunion with my then ex, my now, probably soon to be wife. This will be the woman I marry. I know this with all my heart, with all my mind, with all my soul, with all my strength. And she'll probably listen to this. And I appreciate you listening to this, because some of you need to hear these stories that, man, this shit is wild. We give up so quick. We give up on ourselves. We give up on other people. And what we forget to do, and Adam, if he's here tonight, he said this even in the Breath of Life, encouraging one of the members, was, sometimes we just want to hustle and grind and we want to force it. And what Adam knows about my own personal story is in the recent months, I went totally abstinent. I literally started doing semen retention, right? Holding myself back. I hadn't really been dating, like trying to connect, but all kinds of divine protection in my life, where swinging misses, knocking on doors, things that wouldn't, nothing was transpiring. And yet me and Adam sat there in several times, and, he spoke a lot of life into me, saying, bro, like, you deserve the best. And yet there's whatever you're working on, which was me turning towards my pain. I talked about this recently, that one of the big breakthroughs I had just before this alignment of reunion happened on 789 was having an awakening that I was no longer going to allow for my sexuality to be used as a means of pain relief. Again, if we go back to what I was showing you earlier, when it comes to the habits, you can apply this to anything. So when you look at, let's see if this will show. Right here, this is who we are, understanding your habit loops, right? So you have your cue, right? If you're feeling unloved, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling unappreciated, when you're feeling that cue, that activation, that trigger, that button getting pushed, you have a routine of utilizing something that then what? Makes you feel happy. And a lot of times, whatever this routine is, it's usually not a healthy habit. It's usually a bad habit. And the cool thing about breaking your bad habits and creating new habits is you don't need to change the cue, and you don't need to change the reward. You need to change this routine, whatever you're using for your escape. And so for me, I realized that I was still, when necessary, especially being single, turning towards pornography, sex, to what? Eliminate my loneliness. And again, that's a lot of pressure on your sexuality. And that's not healthy. That doesn't cultivate true intimacy. And so as I started turning towards my pain, as opposed to turning away from it and utilizing something as a means of giving me the reward, the pleasure, without really having the pleasure, I realized that I could sit there and learn more about myself by being in the fire, being in that heat. And a lot of people have a hard time hearing this stuff. Because why? It's a mirror. Because this is stuff that in your life, maybe not in these exact examples, but there are things you are doing, your routine, that you're ashamed of, that you are hiding from others because there's shame around it. because it's your little thing. It's your little way of releasing yourself from sitting in the fire and experiencing. This is what's so important. Hear that word, experiencing your pain. As I see 111. Experiencing your pain. Most of us don't even want to come within 1,000 miles of our pain. When it shows up, we already have, boom, I'm feeling uncomfortable. What's my routine? Do I need snacks? Do I need food? Do I need sex? Do I need drink? Do I need smoke? Do I need to shop? Do I need a game? Do I need to watch sports and entertainment? What do I need to do to get to not feel the pain so that I can feel happy? So I can avoid connecting with myself, understanding myself, creating depths of self-awareness. And yet, prior to this reunion, right, I went abstinent and I stopped and I started sitting in the fire and I started really sifting through the pain. And I made a covenant with myself sexually to say, I release my sexuality from having to bear the burden of my emotional unhealed traumas or pains or any residue, because that is not what it is for. And I sit in that level of clarity, honesty, authenticity, and vulnerability with myself and with others. Unapologetically, unashamed, zero shame, with me being this crystal clear with you, because I believe in you. That's why. Because if these incredible, miraculous things can happen to me, it can happen to you. That butterfly effect, that was a supernatural reunion where literally God stepped in and said he had to orchestrate me and this guy meeting before even she meets the guy. And yet there they are. He sees the car that she doesn't even recognize. And next thing you know, he's just like, wow, there's something shinier, cooler than her. And it's me. And I don't even know this guy. He just saw me. It was the energy. It was the car. It was whatever it was. There was something that stopped him in his tracks. I call that supernatural intervention to bring back this divine union. And it's a powerful story. And one of the beautiful things where then that segues into even me sitting there beside my father next to his deathbed is my girlfriend and her dad had a conversation shortly after we reconnected. And it was it's been harmonious. You can tell that I have grown in ways that I needed to grow. And I really do. We look at what we went through from September 23 to basically October 24. And I truly do believe that we front loaded a lot of the lessons and the experiences that we needed, so that from this point forward, we're going to be able to work these things out and live a very harmonious, beautiful, impactful, purpose-filled connection on this planet together. We front loaded the things that needed to get worked through between us. But one of the powerful things, because again, this was 7/8/9, my father passed away on the 12th. So literally a week after we met, we had our reunion. Well, a few days after, she's talking to her dad about, us reconnecting, and also about my father dying. And her dad gave some pretty important feedback where she was telling him about the situation with my dad dying. And he said, well, you told him to go visit, right? And she's like, no, I didn't. And he's like, you said he's a leader and he's a leader in his family. And she's like, yeah, well, her father says him going to be there isn't about him, and it's not about his dad. It's about the other people. And that resonated with me because in my heart of hearts, I'd had peace with my dad. I made peace with him in therapy probably 8 years ago when I had a therapist say, what do you want from him? And I sat there probably for about 30 minutes, pretty quiet. And I was just thinking, probably even got pretty emotional. And I said, you know what? Nothing. I don't want anything from him. I want him. I fast forwarded and said he has like another family. Both my parents, my mom and my dad, started other second families after me and their experience that brought about my existence. They both went and had other families with kids. And I basically said, the only thing I would want from him was to be the best dad he can now for the kids that he has now. I don't think he's ever going to really fill a father role in my life, but I would be proud of him for being a great dad to the kids that he has in his life right now, his new family. So I had always felt like I'd made peace with him as I see the 11111s going up. But when I received this message, and what's interesting is it's my birthday right now. It's not my birthday, but it's 11/7, which is my birthday, November 7th. And so I sat there. Hearing that message, if it wasn't for my girlfriend and her dad, her talking to him and him relaying a message that it wasn't about me, it's not about him. Being present is about the family. It's about my other siblings that I've been estranged from. It's being stepping up, that he's the firstborn out of 5 kids. He's the first male. And yet he has 3 other children and a bunch of grandkids, probably 5 grandkids, something like that, not including mine. I guess that's 7. And I realized that when I showed up to his house, there he is on his deathbed, that it wasn't about him. It was about the family around him. And it was an opportunity for me to be there for them. And that was a powerful thing. And we had a moment. It was interesting is to be able to, we had 2 moments. I get there, he's on his deathbed. Everybody's thinking he's going to go down, but he didn't. And, we had a small exchange kind of in front of a lot of people. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I stuck around for about 7 hours. He was in a lot of pain. And eventually I needed to roll out. It was getting late. And he kind of reaches for me and grabs my hand, and I grab his hand, and everyone in the room leaves. And, he basically starts talking to me. He even shed a little tear, and he started remembering, he started telling me some memories when I was just a little boy, telling me that he always loved me. And in that moment, what I saw was a soul brother. I saw a soul, which we all have. And I know the purity of all of our souls is we are expressions of love and light. And what I saw was that this soul, who just in this life is my father, he's been fathers in other lives. I've had that reading as well. But I know that these characters, we play different roles. And that's again part of this past life stuff, this soul tribe stuff. Mom and dad in this life are not mom and dad in every single life. You have an ancestry, which you're carrying a bloodline, but you also have a soul line and a soul tribe. And so I saw the soul and the humanity, the compassion of saying, this guy, my dad, he survived 7 heart attacks, and it's 11:11 right now. This dude survived 7 heart attacks, man. And even when I was there, he got sent to hospice. He's on his deathbed. It's a Friday. No one thinks he's going to even make it through the night. This dude lasted 5 more days. And I don't even know how, because his eyes were already rolling in the back of his head when I was there on the first day. I'm like, man, how did this guy get there? But in that moment, what I saw was a soul that chose one of the hardest missions. Because as a soul of love and light, you have to do 2 things to take on what he chose. First, you have to be wounded, which he was. As a child, this dude was wounded incredibly, terribly. And secondly, you have to transmute your wounds, your pains, your trauma into hurting people you love, which is really, it's medicine. And so I'm sitting there as an estranged son, a child. I'm a ghost. Like when I'm sitting there, they're talking about how many grandkids he has and kids, and it's like my role, my children are like unintentionally omitted from the count. Like we're not a part of it, but it's like I'm his firstborn child, and I have 2 children. And they're the oldest grandchildren of his, but it's one of those interesting, dynamics that can be really hard to process. But I saw the spirit in him to realize that this soul took on one of the hardest roles, because if you can imagine if you're carrying around any guilt, any shame, and I have done it too. I have hurt people. Hurting people do hurt others. But in order for you to pass on that hurt, which is medicine, that means that you had to have been hurt first. Someone hurt you, you hurt someone else. I always talk about this, that exchange. And that's where you can choose to break the cycle, to break the pattern, to be the generational curse breaker, to say enough's enough, it stops with me. And it stops here and it stops now. But again, there's no quick. There's no quick. But there is a system. There is a process, and there's a way for you to do it. 1% Better Everyday Journal can help you down that path of self-exploration, self-discovery, self-improvement, self-development, self-awareness, self-mastery. Really starting to peel back the layers of who you truly are. Dropping into the Breath of Life Healing Circle, joining that, finding some courage. You can now do it as a drop-in, where you can just sign up one time, just come check it out. There is a fee. It's $30 for you to come in. If you want to sign up for the membership, the monthly, it's $80. So you save a little bit on that. But I highly encourage you to find the courage to say, why are you here? Are you just here to listen, or are you here to participate? Do you believe? If you go to resultskillexcuses.com, Breath of Life Healing Circle, there's all kinds of videos. Most of you that are hearing this, you've heard it before. You've been scared to pull the trigger, right? We have 3 more sessions scheduled in August. We'll probably continue on beyond that. It's been powerful. It's a powerful group. We have some powerful conversations. But you can either reserve your spot in the monthly membership, or if you scroll down, wait, where is it? It should be there. Here it is. So if you're curious about the healing, you can try the Breath of Life Healing Circle one-time session only. There's the one-time session drop-in. You click on that, $30, right? You can send in, all you got to do is send me your email to be added. Pick one of the sessions that you want to join, right? If you want to come in the 10th of August, the 17th, or the 24th, you can sign up and you'll get an invitation to join that exclusive group. And I would love to see you there. We meet Sundays live at 8:45 Mountain Standard Time. And it's something that I guarantee you'll walk away from with a fresh perspective on what is possible in your life and in what's happening in the lives of others. The breath has changed my life. It's truly amplified and accelerated the spiritual growth and expansion this year to create these next level alignments that are happening in this moment. And if I'm experiencing it clearly, those of you that are tuning in here, you are receiving this next level alignment, this higher frequency that is truly vibrating from within me out into this world. The messages I put out there, these are songs to the entire universe. And I'm grateful for the melody that's flowing through me. And it continues to get more clear. And even though in this month I've had just so many incredible alignments, right? Those are just a few of the things that have happened in the month of July. And I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to everyone that's ever listened, subscribed, shared, and even greater than that, made a decision to pull the trigger on getting yourself a 1% Better Everyday Journal, getting yourself in the Breath of Life Healing Circle, or even choosing to sign up for some one-on-one coaching, to really hold yourself accountable, to make some investments, knowing that if I can do this, you can do it. We're all capable. And what is this? This is me getting to a place of alignment. These alignments are happening external. What do I always say? What's happening on the inside is what happens on the outside. These types of supernatural alignments are happening because they are a reflection of what's going on the inside. Well, what have I always talked about aligning on the inside? Mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, physical health, financial health. That is how this works. The more aligned you become inside your being, your spiritual presence, your physical presence, your emotional presence, your mental psyche, the more aligned you are, the more congruent you are, the more whole you are within yourself, everything starts to unfold in your favor. But if you feel like things are still hard, still difficult, still challenging, still unbearable, or you're feeling like you're still stuck, there's an incredible graphic that I utilized today. I'm kind of giving you guys some sneak peeks into the course content for the volume 2 videos that I've been recording. But I love this graphic and I want to share it with you because most of us have never seen this. But it's the 5 phases of breakthrough. And a lot of you that feel stuck, and most people I talk to, most people that are reaching out, I hear it more than anything else is I feel stuck. How do I get unstuck? Well, it's not about how do you get unstuck. It's how do you get to your breakthrough, right? And this graph shows you right now that there's 5 phases of breakthrough. Most of us, we want to be here in your comfort zone. That's where you feel safest, is in that comfort zone, right? You want it to be easy. You're looking for easy solutions to the challenges of your life. You want the easiest, quickest, fastest magic trick that you can find to the challenges in your life. And I think because by nature, our brains, our bodies, our minds, we want to be lazy. If you let your brain have its way, it'll run everything on autopilot. And thus, a lot of you are living autopilot because of you're living unconscientiously. That is why you need to practice mindfulness, becoming more aware and awake and intentional with the things that you're doing, not just going through repetitive motions. And that's the comfort zone. The next is your tension phase. This is where resistance is. This is you saying, okay, if I step out of the comfort zone, what's going to happen? Right? And there's tension there. There's stress there because you start to get out of the comfort, and thus you start to step into a place that can feel very new and unknown. And so you feel stressed because you would much rather go back to your comfort zone. And yet, where most people give up is right here in the decision. And the thing about your decision point is you got to make a decision every single day to keep going, to stay locked in. That's a mantra here, right? 1% better. That's it. 1% better every day. That is your decision. You have to make that decision. Renew it every day. No days off. But yet, if you're staying with what you're comfortable with and what you're used to, that is why you feel stuck. Because it's not until you get past the uncomfortable, the tension phase, and start really living life with intention, where you're making clear decisions for yourself, that you start to hit your breakthrough. And this tension phase, right, you can go in and out of this for your entire life and never really get to a place of clarity where you're making intentional decisions for your life each and every day. And yet, guess what's packed into the 1% Better Everyday Journal? It's an opportunity for you to start making and setting goals monthly, weekly, and daily. And really holding yourself accountable so that you have a vision for your life, that you're making decisions, that the things you do every day should be filtered through. Does this matter to my life? Does this matter to the goals and the dreams and the purpose I have on this planet or not? And unfortunately, for a lot of you, you just don't want to let go of the comfort, because you can choose to avoid your soul's purpose on this planet. Or you can choose to align yourself. And as you do that, that decision to align will absolutely lead to breakthroughs. And eventually, when you get to the other side of the breakthroughs, that's living and embodying your best self, your highest self, which is the fulfillment of your purpose on this planet. What you do and how you show up, some of you just need to really embody and align yourself with being the highest version of yourself. And I know even me, like, I realize that's why I literally introduce myself as Rocky to people. People say, what's your name? I'm Rocky. Why? Because I know that that's the name of my higher self. And I want to be identified. I want to identify myself as my highest self. And some of you just cling. You're clinging to whatever it is, the experiences that you've had in this life. Some of you have had some pretty decent successes. Some of you have had a lot of mistakes. And yet you're still holding on to the past, when neither the mistakes or the wins are relevant when it comes to your truest purpose on this planet. Because the truest purpose on this planet is activated once you get through the breakthrough and you level up. You start walking and embodying that higher self, that higher vibration, leaving the lower self and all the distractions and all the pain, and you do the work to heal and release and set yourself free so that you can up level and truly show up as the higher version of yourself, fully embodying your humanity. You're not going to just be like floating on, hovering over the earth. Some of you may think you're going to be doing that, but that's not how it works. You just walk around filled with more love, more joy, more peace, more grace, no matter what is happening in your life or in the world around you. You are centered on yourself. You have awareness on yourself. You have an understanding of eternity and not the finiteness of whatever's happening, whatever's the headline news, whatever the government, whatever the politicians, whatever the social issues, whatever the news is telling you. You can just set all that aside and just cultivate the most powerful, the most beautiful version of yourself. And it's not even about doing more things. It's about letting go. What do you need to let go of? Your comfort zone. Let go of the comfort. Sit in the uncomfortable. This is the tension. That's all it is. Learning to sit in the uncomfortable. Sit in that fire. And all it is emotions. All it is a feeling, which is attached to a life memory that you've had in this experience and sometimes in past life experiences. And when you can find a place of neutrality in that fire, which is really just being clear, it's being at peace, that is when you start to hit these breakthroughs in this next level. And the beautiful thing is, you do not have to do it alone. There are many here doing the work. As Adam says here, the decision point can take a few days, for sure. Some days were hard. The last week didn't feel the 1% at all, but the 0.01 was still forward. Then because after the consistent decision, the breakthroughs comes. Yeah. Had to keep choosing to journal, sit in it, have faith for the breakthrough, but it does come. But only because I kept making the forward decision regardless of the feeling. You have to transcend the feeling. And what you'll hear me talk about a lot more is it's experiencing your feelings. I mean, the true healing process, if you think about the habit loop, right? That's another thing. And what I'm basically showing you all is a little behind the scenes of the curriculum and the videos and the lessons that are in the Results Kill Excuses, 1% Better Everyday Journal, Volume 2. This is the course content that I'm teaching, and I would love for you to be a part of that if you're needing to take that leap of faith. But when we think about this, right, the cue, there's always something that activates, right? We feel down, we feel frustrated, we feel alone, we feel sad, we feel grief, we feel shame, we feel guilt, we feel, you name it. Type something down there. What do you feel? What are you feeling right now? Overwhelmed? You feeling unappreciated? You feeling betrayed? Are you feeling burned? Are you feeling taken advantage of? What are you feeling? Taken for granted? Whatever you feel, what is your routine for dealing with it? How do you deal with when you feel these things? This is the habit loop. Because ultimately, when you feel down, when you feel whatever, fill in the blank, that negative feeling, ultimately, as humans, we want to get away from that as quickly as possible. It's human nature. We feel like shit, we want to feel better. And we've created these cycles, which are really cravings to say, okay, this helps me, even if it's temporary, even if it's harmful, it gets me away from feeling that. When ultimately what you want to learn how to do is to sit in that fire, to sit in that cue, to get so familiar with it. And what's worked for me is literally putting myself in uncomfortable situations physically, whether that's lifting, giving myself challenges to pick up 500 pounds deadlifting. I have back injuries. I shouldn't even be doing that. But somehow, some way, miraculously, because I put myself through it and sat in that fire and stayed consistent, right? I was able to do it. I like to get in that cold water. That's very uncomfortable. I like to hike with a freaking monster pack up big, huge mountains, and I have no business doing that. I put myself through these physical challenges. Even sometimes the hot, I get into this really hot water and try and sit in there in that uncomfortable feeling as long as possible. Never to try and harm myself, but to just sit in it. Because when I get these cues, when I'm feeling alone, when I'm feeling down, when I'm feeling sad, when I'm feeling depressed, when I'm feeling anxious, because those are human nature and that does not go away as a part of this process, what happens is you become more self-aware. And as you become self-aware and you can sit in that, that is where you gain your self-mastery. That is the breakthrough. That is the up-level experience. And it's literally so silly as to how hard people try to avoid that simple process that is not easy. It's simple though. To not run, to not escape, to not get drunk, to not get high, to not eat a bunch of unhealthy food, but to just sit with yourself and be fully fucking present. To experience whatever it is that your body, your mind, your soul is trying to share with you. These come up as a gift. It's medicine for you to sit there and be like, fuck, I feel, give it a name. This is the process. This is what you are taught. Throughout the 1% Better Everyday Journal, Volume 1, we learn about the emotional wheel and expanding our emotional intelligence and our emotional literacy so that we can name our feelings. No longer just fucking the feelings. Sit in it and name it. Give it a name. Overwhelm, sadness, grief, whatever you're feeling. Irritation, frustration, rage, doesn't matter. You just need to sit in it and say, what am I feeling? You start to have a connection with yourself, a very intimate, vulnerable time with you and yourself. And if you want to learn how to do this, right, it can be done during our Breath of Life Healing Circle, and it can absolutely be done working one-on-one with me guiding you through this process. Sitting, naming, and I don't even let you get to one level. It's 3 layers deep. How do you feel? I don't know. I'm annoyed right now. Okay, what's beneath the being annoyed? Well, I'm frustrated. What's beneath the frustration? I'm scared, right? It's like you got to get deep, and it's hard. It's hard to sit there and go 3 layers deep on how you really feel underneath the surface. And this stuff sounds, I don't know. You tell me, how does it sound? If you're hearing this and you're like, okay, well, does this guy really know what he's talking about? Well, let's try it. Let's try it. And when it works, then you're going to be like, wait, he does know what he's talking about. Is this really what it takes? Yes, this is what it takes. But the thing is you have a reservoir of suppressed emotions within you. So it's not just, oh, I sat in an uncomfortable emotion one time and I processed it. And then 2 minutes later, I felt better. Awesome. You may have to do that 100 times because of how much stuff you have suppressed within you. There's no quick fix. You can't just say the magic words and all that stuff is gone. It doesn't disappear. It's etched in you. It's programmed in you for survival. And your brain is so powerful that every time that you ease up and you're not in a decision-making mode, deciding what thoughts you're having, what feelings you're feeling, and what you're going to sit in and process, your brain then just runs what? Your bad habits, your routines. Uh-oh. You're scared, time to get drunk, time to get angry, time to whatever your little routine is so that you can feel better about yourself. This is what your brain wants to do. But if you want to shift and take your power back, you can absolutely do that. And if you don't think that's possible, I always love talking about the toothbrush. Whatever hand dominant you are, if you're used to brushing your teeth with your right hand, I challenge you to start brushing your teeth with your left hand. It's going to feel awkward and weird because guess what? Just thinking about brushing your teeth, you don't think when you're brushing your teeth. You have a ritual. It's a habit. You get the toothbrush, maybe you rinse it, whatever your little routine is, you've done it so many times that it is autopilot. But when you say, okay, I'm used to doing it right hand, I'm going to now do it left hand, your brain says, oh shit, we're back to learning. I have to be alert. I have to be observant. We're not just running autopilot shit no more, victim programs, survival programs. We want to actually be in decision-making mode, growth mindset. Okay, your brain's capable. But again, you have to start what? Step number 1, non-negotiable, is if you're chemically dependent, you gotta be willing to give that a rest. You gotta be willing to give that up. And if the reason for your chemical dependency is because you got unhealed emotional trauma, well, that's step 2. First, making a decision to let go of the chemical dependencies. And second, asking for help, doing the work to heal your emotional wounds. And if you need help with that, that's what I'm here for. Whether it's getting on the 1% Everyday Journal, downloading the Results Kill Excuses app, doing the first 5 courses, there are so many resources to support you along this journey that you no longer have the excuse that you got to do it alone, or the excuse that I'm battling my demons and I'm trying to just figure it out. You don't need to just figure it out anymore. You can just follow along, commit to yourself, show up, sign up, whether it's Breath of Life, 1% Better Everyday Journal, downloading the app, doing the first 5 courses. That's a month worth of free content right there. All you need is a printer or to purchase the workbook. What are you waiting for? Oh, wait, you got excuses. Uh-oh, comfort zone. Summer's not over. Maybe in the winter, maybe next year, maybe someday. Someday's not a day of the week. The only time we got is now. Make your choice. Choose wisely. I'm going to keep getting back on here one way or another. I love you guys. You know the drill. Results kill excuses, because if it was easy, it won't be worth it. Greg's out.